The demon and the monk Tianxin left together, heading to none other than the nearby Sea of White Bones. Beyond the ruined ancient city, there was an ocean, and in this ocean, there were only white bones. The vast ocean was covered with white bones, which had turned white from being submerged in the seawater, a bleak, dreadful white. The sea was covered with bones. When the monk Tianxin and the demon arrived, the first thing they saw was a huge palace. On the Sea of Bones, there is a solemn palace, also made of piled bones, which looks extremely ferocious. From a great distance, the demon said, "This white bone demon lord looks very powerful. Let's go in and take a look. If we join forces, we have nothing to fear. We can find out the location and general information of the 18th level of the abyss. The white bone demon lord, who lives deep in this place, will definitely know." Monk Tianxin said with clear eyes. "Yes, we need to find out. If we rely on ourselves to search, we don't know how long it will take." Zhong Ziki appeared and agreed with Monk Tianxin's words. "Then let's go see just how powerful this bone demon lord really is." The demon immediately flew over, moving at lightning speed, like a phantom. 1 second he was on the shore, and the next he was in front of the gates of the Bone Palace. Monk Tianxin also took a step forward and followed closely behind to this place. The Palace of Bones was empty and deserted, with no guards and its gates wide open, seemingly an empty palace. The demon and the monk Tianxin entered the palace, which had several floors. The exterior looked rough and terrifying, but the interior was exquisite and spotless, as if no one lived there. "White Bone Demon Lord, come out for a chat." The demon's eyes narrowed as he looked into the depths of the hall, where there was a white bone throne, upon which sat a skeleton. A colorful skull. "This is the White Bone Demon Lord, a powerful undead creature. Unlike humans, it attained enlightenment through bones, giving birth to soul fire, and then underwent baptism and transformation to become the 5-colored skeleton it is today. The sturdiness of the 5-colored skeleton is such that only a celestial artifact can break it. This is the power of the White Bone Demon Lord. What do you want from this Demon Lord?" The White Bone Demon Lord stood up, the 5-colored soul fire burning within his skull, and his aura exploded with a bang. A terrifying pressure swept across the Bone Palace, and with a loud thud, it exploded, creating huge waves that crashed against the surrounding sea of bones, causing ripples. Inside the main hall, the monk Tianxin and the demon were unharmed, their robes fluttering but their bodies remaining completely still. The White Bone Demon Lord's aura was nothing special in their eyes. The soul fire of the White Bone Demon Lord deep within the hall grew heavy. It knew these two were not to be trifled with. After some thought, it decided to come out. 6 times I've seized the mandate of heaven, Monk Tianxin said calmly. Not strong, but it's able to occupy a territory here and even send its subordinates to lure outsiders in, which means that the top combat power in this layer of the abyss is also at this level. The demon quickly deduced. "If it can cooperate well, then we can have a proper talk," Monk Tianxin said calmly. "If he doesn't cooperate, then we'll let him experience the terror of soul-searching," the demon said coldly. The two worked well together, taking turns speaking and observing their surroundings. The White Bone Demon Lord, a multicolored skull, has emerged. "What brings 2 human experts to this Demon Lord's place?" the White Bone Demon Lord asked in a deep voice. He realized he couldn't see through the monk Tianxin and the demon, and he felt very nervous. He dared not be arrogant. If he were arrogant and got beaten up, that would be the least of his worries. He might even get killed by accident, which would be bad luck. So the White Bone Demon Lord only appears to have a powerful aura. Trembling with inner fear. "I have some questions to ask, and I hope you can cooperate," said Monk Tianxin. "No problem," the White Bone Demon Lord readily agreed. Monk Tianxin was not surprised. If the White Bone Demon Lord, who had seized the mandate of heaven 6 times, had not known how to assess the situation, he would not have been able to cultivate to this level. "Which level of the 18-layered abyss is this?" Monk Tianxin asked. "The first level is also the abyss closest to the real world," the White Bone Demon Lord replied. Monk Tianxin was not surprised. He had long suspected that this was the first level, and now it was simply confirmed. This is the first level. How do I get to the second and third levels? Monk Tianxin continued to ask. He wanted to go to the third level, where the treasure was. There is no other way but to go down into the demon cave, said the white-bone demon lord. A demon's lair? Monk Tianxin raised an eyebrow. The demon cave is a bottomless abyss that connects to the 18 layers of the abyss. No one knows what lies at the bottom, but without exception, whether coming from other layers to the first layer or going from the first layer to other layers, one must pass through the demon cave, said the white-bone demon lord. Where is the demon cave? Monk Tianxin continued to ask. At the center of the first layer of the abyss, the white-bone demon lord replied obediently, lacking any of his usual domineering air. When the white-bone demon lord heard Monk Tianxin ask how to enter other abysses, he knew that these two people were truly capable and were going to conquer the 18 levels of the abyss. It dared not provoke it even more. After asking the questions, Monk Tianxin stopped asking and pondered silently. Are you an undead creature born from the 18th level of the abyss? Now it was the demon's turn to ask. Yes, I am the Bone Demon Lord born on this level. The Bone Demon Lord was a little dissatisfied, emphasizing that he was called the Bone Demon Lord and was not some undead creature. Although it is essentially an undead creature, it is called the White Bone Demon Lord. The demon ignored them and instead conjured up the image of a demon god pillar, saying, Have you seen this before? The White Bone Demon Lord looked closely. The enormous size of the demon god pillar was actually quite easy to recognize, but it hesitated to speak. What's the problem? The demon lord asked seriously, noticing the white-bone demon lord's hesitant expression. I've seen this pillar before. It's enormous, and 3 of them pierce through the 18th level of the abyss, the white-bone demon lord said after a moment's hesitation. What about the last one? The demon asked astutely. The demon was not surprised at all that the 3 pillars pierced through the 18th level of the abyss, because these were demon god pillars from the demon realm, far surpassing the power of immortal artifacts. Xiandao used 8 demon god pillars to construct the 9 heavens and 10 earths, and the 19 great worlds are flourishing. This is already a remarkable achievement. So when the demon god pillar pierced through the 18th level of the abyss, the demon was not surprised at all. What surprised him was that there were only 3 pillars. Where did the other one go? There's one more, but King Zhou took it, the white-bone demon lord said softly, seemingly very afraid of King Zhou. Even after he finished speaking, he still looked around warily. The monk Tianxin and the demon exchanged a glance, both seeing surprise in each other's eyes. The white-bone demon lord, who has seized the mandate of heaven 6 times, is so afraid. This King Zhou seems to be very powerful. Who is this King Zhou? The demon asked quickly. He wanted to see just how powerful the person who could seize the demon god pillar was. Chapter 532 I'm here to greet my guests. Part 2. Who was the king of Zhou? The question startled the 5-colored skeleton, who hurriedly said, Keep your voices down. This is a supreme expert. If he hears us, we'll all be in trouble. The demon sneered and said, How powerful is a supreme master? In the heavens, the demon lord doesn't claim to be invincible, but he's among the top tier. Apart from Xiandao, he fears no one else. Monk Tianxin watched calmly, unlike the white-bone demon lord who was filled with fear. You don't live in the abyss, so naturally you don't know the inside story. King Zhou is one of the 4 kings of the 18 layers of the abyss, residing in the lowest layers. His strength is unfathomable. Even a master who has seized the destiny 9 times is no match for King Zhou. Previously, a king from the 3rd layer who had seized the destiny 9 times went to provoke King Zhou and was killed by a burst of energy from afar. King Zhou didn't even show his face. That's how terrifying he is. The white-bone demon lord said fearfully. He had found the reason for his caution. He was afraid that King Zhou would kill him from afar. The demon king abandoned his contempt and, based on the description given by the white-bone demon lord, realized that this King Zhou seemed quite powerful. Without anyone showing their face, A burst of energy from afar killed a person who had seized the destiny of heaven 9 times. The demon cannot do this yet. He needs to improve further to have such an ability. What does King Zhou want with this pillar? Monk Tianxin asked curiously. I don't know, but I heard that King Zhou put this pillar in front of his door, but I don't know what it was for, the White-Bone Demon Lord said, shaking his head. It seems you know the 18 levels of the abyss very well. The demon suddenly smiled eerily. The White-Bone Demon Lord had a bad feeling. He took a step back and asked in horror, What do you want to do? No need to do anything. Talking here is a waste of time. You come with us and lead us through the 18 levels of the abyss. Be our guide, and we'll be able to explain everything clearly, the demon said with a smile. Looking at the unfathomably powerful demon, the White-Bone Demon Lord asked fearfully, Can I refuse? No, your men tricked me into coming here, intending to sacrifice me to you. So now you come with us, and we'll even things out, with neither of us owing the other anything, the demon said decisively. The White-Bone Demon Lord tried to escape, but when Monk Tianxin took a step forward, the world instantly changed color, and 10,000 Buddhas chanted Buddhist scriptures, causing the White-Bone Demon Lord to scream in terror and tremble. I agree to your terms. All right, thank you for your cooperation, benefactor. Monk Tianxin immediately stopped chanting the 10,000 Buddhas chant and smiled. The White-Bone Demon Lord was speechless and choked with emotion. He sighed helplessly and said, What exactly are your plans? Tell me in advance so I can decide whether or not to go mad with you. We originally planned to part ways after entering the 18th level of the abyss, but now it seems we have to act together, Monk Tianxin sighed. The demon said sternly, We need to work together. Let's go to the 3rd level first, settle your matter, and then go get the demon god pillar. The demon lord is a great demon king in hell. He is very powerful, but he is not arrogant. He knows that his current combat power is not heaven-defying, and his cultivation of the summoning demon scripture has only just begun. He has not yet unleashed the ultimate power of this demonic art. Therefore, the original plan could no longer continue, and separately, they had no competitive advantage in front of King Zhou. Although they had never met, it was clear from their words that the Zhou king was very powerful. Take us to the 3rd level of the abyss, and we'll deal with the rest later, Monk Tianxin said to the White-Bone Demon Lord. All right, as long as you don't go looking for King Zhou, it's fine. The White-Bone Demon Lord breathed a sigh of relief. Road. The Monk Tianxin and the demon exchanged a glance, understanding each other without saying a word. They decided not to discuss it for now, but after the treasure hunt in the 3-layered abyss was over, they would definitely go to King Zhou to get the demon god pillar. The White-Bone Demon Lord, unaware of this, assumed they weren't going to find King Zhou and happily led the way. Leaving the Sea of Bones and entering the boundless land, the 3 of them traveled continuously day and night, traversing countless miles. A day later, they finally arrived at the demon cave that the Bone Demon Lord had mentioned. A 10-mile-long demon's lair. Standing on the edge, looking down, gusts of wind swept through, obscuring what lay beneath. Looking at the demon cave, Monk Tianxin took a deep breath and activated the Buddhist technique of heavenly eye to investigate what was inside. Golden light shone from its eyes, spreading throughout the demon's lair and dispelling some of the darkness. But suddenly, a violent hurricane surged from the demon cave and rushed straight up. Fortunately, Monk Tianxin retreated quickly, otherwise he would have been blown away by the impact. The White-Bone Demon Lord said, This is the demon cave. Any attempt to probe it will elicit a strong reaction. Fortunately, you were only spying. If you had used other methods, who knows what untold things might have happened. The Monk Tianxin kept this in mind, his eyes returned to normal, and he stopped spying. How do we enter the 3rd level? The demon asked. Follow me down the edge. This demon cave is 10 miles in size, and the bottom is unfathomably deep. Do not go near the center. Keep close to the edge along the way to avoid falling, the White-Bone Demon Lord said cautiously as he began to fly down. The Monk Tianxin and the Demon Lord followed closely behind the White-Bone Demon Lord, carefully observing his movements. They then followed his example and entered the demon cave, continuing their descent. "It will take a long time, but this is the demon cave," the white-bone demon lord said helplessly. Both the monk Tianxin and the demon lord understood and followed the white-bone demon lord deeper into the realm of evil. Inside the heaven and earth bank, Xiandao was silently watching this scene. Shao Qi was standing next to him. Xiandao was very curious about what exactly was in the 18th abyss, or what it was. After monk Tianxin and the others entered the 18th abyss, he began to observe it. "Until now, I have seen the den of demons." The sheer size and eeriness of the demon cave left Xiandao bewildered. How exactly was this 18-layered abyss formed? Xiandao asked Shao Qi in confusion. Shao Qi shook her head, indicating that she didn't know, and guessed, "This 18-layered abyss is attached to the main world, so it can be considered a dimensional world. However, the more powerful people there are in the dimensional world, the stronger the 18-layered abyss becomes, which is why it looks so huge now. As for the specific origin of the 18-layered abyss, I don't know either. The pocket watches we scattered throughout the heavens, even those in the 18th level of the abyss can obtain them, right?" Xiandao asked. "Of course, the 18 layers of the abyss are attached to the main world, so they are one with it and can definitely accept it." As Shao Qi spoke, his expression suddenly turned strange. "What's wrong?" Xiandao asked, puzzled. "What you say comes true. A guest from the 18th level of the abyss. Shall we receive him?" Shao Qi asked Xiandao, finding it quite a coincidence. "Shao Qi, go and bring the guests in." "I'll greet them," Xiandao said excitedly. But as soon as I said those words, something felt off. Chapter 533, Becoming an Immortal in the Mortal Realm. Part 3. In a corner of the 18th level abyss, in front of a small grave, the soil rolled, and a pale hand squeezed out. This is an old man's hand, with wrinkled, aged skin, devoid of flesh, the skin clinging tightly to the bone, like a dried corpse. "I'm really going to die." The old man crawled out of the mud, soaking wet and looking very disheveled. He knew clearly that he was going to die. There is no cure, and no one can help. "My soul and my body are shattered, and my days are numbered." The hope in the old man's eyes slowly faded. He knew he was about to die. To die in one's hometown, to fall like a leaf unable to return to its roots, is truly a pity. The old man smiled sadly, looking around in despair, as if time had reversed before his eyes, and he returned to the small sect where he had lived for 20 years in his childhood. A peach tree was in full bloom, its fragrance filling the air. Beneath the peach blossoms, a beautiful figure, dressed in a red dress, looked at him with a radiant smile. This is the cinnabar mark on his heart, and also the white moonlight outside his window. "I left the sect at 20, thinking it was a small place, and wanted to see the big world. But after living this life, the place I most want to go back to is still the sect that I once thought was a small place." The old man smiled sadly, his heart bleeding. What he had been pursuing all his life, he found out in the end was something he had always had. Over the long years, he discarded these things one by one, and became what he is now. If I had another chance, I would never have entered this abyss, nor would I have participated in this grand celebration, which ultimately led me to lose myself. The old man's eyes were filled with regret, and his breathing gradually faded until he stopped breathing altogether. Peach Blossom Mountain. In his final moments, the old man's longing for his hometown triumphed over his hatred. Click, click, click. From the void, a blood-red pocket watch fell down and landed on the old man. But the old man was already dead. He struggled to crawl out, exhausting his last bit of strength. His injuries flared up completely, and he couldn't control them. He died. The blood-red pocket watch fell a beat too late. This caused the blood-red pocket watch to freeze in place. After carefully sensing the surroundings, it realized that its host was indeed dead and tried to leave. Click. But at this moment, a phantom appeared, floating out from a jade pendant shaped like two fish. It was a spirit of the artifact, who crushed the pocket watch. I will help you fulfill your last wish. The spirit of the artifact was a woman as dark as ink, as beautiful as mountains and rivers, as gentle as a spring breeze. She was very beautiful, with an outstanding temperament and the graceful charm of Jiangnan. She appeared on her own initiative, crushed the blood-red pocket watch, thus fulfilling a wish for her deceased owner. The pocket watch shattered, and the woman returned to the Pisces jade pendant, while the old man's body disappeared from the spot and entered the Heaven and Earth money shop. Inside the Heaven and Earth money shop, Xiandao looked at the old man and blinked. A corpse. Is this the new guest? Xiandao initially thought it was fake, a prank, but when Xiaoqi nodded seriously, he realized that none of it was fake. The new guest was indeed a corpse. Xiandao looked at the corpse, frowned slightly, and said, "Since the guest is already dead, he shouldn't have been brought in. It's a waste of a pocket watch. It has no value whatsoever." "Someone crushed the pocket watch," Xiaoqi said innocently. "The person is already dead, so could it have been crushed before death?" Xiandao was truly puzzled and looked closely at the old man. So thin it was almost unrecognizable. If you didn't look closely, they would never discover that this person was a great master of the heavenly fate realm in his previous life. "I crushed it." A soft, sweet voice rang out, and a few wisps of green smoke flew out of the Pisces jade pendant, transforming into a woman with the gentle and refined air of Jiangnan. "Are you a spirit of an artifact?" Xiandao raised an eyebrow, looking at the Pisces jade pendant, which was of good quality and of the level of a celestial artifact. "Yes, I am the spirit of the Pisces jade pendant. This is my master, who is already dead. I appeared using the last of my accumulated energy." The spirit woman nodded. Xiandao suddenly realized that the guest should have been her master, but he died before the pocket watch appeared, which led to the current situation. What should we do? Xiandao first channeled a stream of true energy into the spirit woman to ensure she wouldn't disappear due to a lack of spiritual energy, then asked, "Since you crushed the pocket watch, you are now a customer of my Heaven and Earth Bank. May I ask, what would you like to trade?" The spirit woman pointed and said, "Send my master to his hometown and bury him at the foot of Peach Blossom Mountain." "How can it be simple?" Xiandao asked, puzzled. Yes, this was his greatest regret in life, even more so than his hatred. So he would rather not seek revenge than return to his roots. The spirit woman nodded. "I understand. In that case, what price are you willing to pay?" Xiandao asked. "Me." The spirit woman pointed to herself, her slender figure exuding a unique charm. "Brush." Xiandao felt a faint gaze fall upon him. Xiandao coughed and said, "Is this your true form, this Pisces jade pendant?" "Yes, this jade pendant is my true form. It is a celestial artifact with extremely powerful protective properties. It can also regulate various cultivation functions of the human body. Wearing it has many benefits," the spirit woman nodded. "Your true form is proportional to your request, so I can send your master back to his roots. But I have some questions I want to answer." Xiandao squatted down, picked up the Pisces jade pendant, and handed it to Xiaoqi. Xiaoqi smiled slightly, reserved yet elegant. "What do you want to ask?" the spirit woman asked Xiandao, puzzled. "Your master has always lived in the 18th level of the abyss?" Xiandao asked. He had just sensed the jade pendant and found that its owner had a very high level of cultivation, having seized the destiny of heaven at least 8 times. Even in the heavens, such a person would be considered a powerful figure. But he died, a very tragic death, as if he had crawled out of the soil himself. In fact, they really did crawl out of their graves. My master left his hometown at the age of 20 to make his way in the world. 3 years later, he accidentally entered the abyss and could not leave. He rose up silently here for more than 10,000 years, and his cultivation reached the 8th level of seizing the destiny of heaven. However, he died here due to an accident, the spirit woman said regretfully. "What accident happened?" Xiandao's eyes lit up. He wanted to know more about the 18th level of the abyss. This person has lived in the 18th level abyss for so long, he must know this place inside and out. And the Pisces jade pendant, as a celestial artifact he always carries, must know a lot about things that Xiandao doesn't. Because the 4 kings of the 18th level of the abyss wish to become immortals in the mortal realm, they have been diligently excavating ancient treasures, the spirit woman said softly. Achieving immortality in the mortal realm. Xiandao looked at the spirit woman in surprise, never expecting such a situation. Chapter 534 The Heart of the World. Part 4. To become an immortal in the mortal realm. This is a very ambitious goal. The problem is, it's difficult to achieve. Since the changes in the status of the 9 heavens and 10 earths and the immortal realm, becoming an immortal in the mortal world has become a luxury. Immortals cannot be attained in the mortal realm. This is the answer reached after countless years and generations of geniuses' efforts. Because the immortal realm absorbed far too much of the world's origin. Xiandao had previously read a book in the Universal Library that contained a very shocking sentence. A corner of the immortal realm is as vast as the 9 heavens and 10 earths combined, and the immortal realm has many, many such places. Therefore, Xiandao was very skeptical of the idea of becoming an immortal in the mortal realm proposed by the spirit woman. He also voiced his doubts. There is no substance in the heavens that can make people immortal. You may be able to rival immortals in strength, and you may be able to slay immortals in the 9 heavens and 10 earths, but you will never be able to become an immortal in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Unless you transcend tribulation and ascend to immortality. This cannot be changed by human effort because there is no longer any substance in the world that can lead to immortality. It has all been concentrated in the immortal realm. Now that the immortal gate is closed, it's impossible to miss anything. The spirit woman didn't know all that, she only told what she knew. My master initially reacted the same way you did when he heard the news, thinking it was absolutely impossible. But as he learned more, he became madly convinced of this method. What made him believe that he could become an immortal in the mortal world? Xiandao asked immediately, as he also wanted to know. Xiandao's subjective opinion was that he didn't believe anyone could do it, but what if they could? Who knows, maybe they'll come up with a brilliant solution. After all, miracles are not uncommon in this world. In the core area of the 18th level abyss, someone has unearthed the world core of the previous era, the spirit woman said. What? Xiandao was truly shocked. Xiao Qi's eyes lit up as she looked at the spirit woman, finding it unbelievable. The previous era was the era of the gods. The angels were a branch of the gods, and the demons of hell were another branch. However, this era has been destroyed, the gods have fallen apart, and the powerful angels can only rely on their divine status to survive. Now, they have actually discovered the core of the world from the previous era in the depths of the 18th layer of the abyss. Are you sure? Xiandao asked seriously. I'm sure. My master saw it with his own eyes. It's a new world. Although it's very damaged, the core of the world is still there, but it's embedded a bit too deep. They've been digging into it all along. The spirit woman nodded. Xiandao felt overjoyed, never expecting to encounter the core of the world here. This is the true core that survived from the previous era. It wasn't Xiandao who condensed the 9 heavens and 10 earths from 8 demon god pillars. If he gets his hands on it, how powerful will he become? How much can the 9 heavens and 10 earths expand? Xiandao dared not think any further. He looked at the spirit woman and continued to ask, since it's confirmed to be the core of the world, why wasn't it dug out? No, because once it's dug out, the commotion would be too great. The people of the 18th abyss couldn't withstand it, so it's been hidden inside all this time. My master was hit by a prehistoric attack while digging into the core of the world. After countless years, the attack was weakened 1,000 times, 10,000 times, and it has been weathered by time, but it still hit him, the spirit woman sighed. Everyone else thought he was dead and built a tomb for him. Even now he struggled to come out, but he still died. The spirit woman's expression turned somber. To be honest, her owner was a bit unlucky. An attack, launched from an unknown time and weakened countless times, still knocked him to the ground in one blow. He died in an extremely frustrating way. The spirit woman said it was an accident, and it truly was an accident. The person who launched that attack countless years ago probably never imagined that they would cross time and space to kill someone in the future. Therefore, at the end of her life, the owner of the spirit woman did not think of revenge, but rather of returning to her roots. Returning to his roots was his last wish, and now the spirit woman is helping him fulfill it. Xiandao couldn't help but sigh. When a person is down on their luck, even drinking cold water can cause them to choke. Xiandao, Titan giant, come here, I have something to discuss. Xiandao called out to two of his men. This time, Xiandao is sending the spirit woman back to her roots, and he intends to entrust her to the two of them. Since following Xiandao, Xiandao has been diligently cultivating without ever slacking off. She possesses astonishing talent. She is a 9-tailed celestial fox, a supreme bloodline among the demon race. Now, her bloodline has been activated, making her extremely terrifying. She has now reached the heavenly mandate realm and has seized the heavenly mandate several times. The Titan giant has become even more terrifying. He has cultivated the Titan race's innate cultivation technique, given to him by Xiandao. Now he is so powerful that he can sweep away a large area of heavenly fate realm cultivators with a single blow. The two people who came before Xiandao were like Beauty and the Beast. Xiandao was incredibly beautiful, with snow-white skin, and her captivating charm was becoming increasingly apparent. The Titan, several meters tall, carried the heavenly staff and exuded a fierce aura. Master! The two men called out respectfully. This time, the two of you will take this old man back to his homeland, so that he may return to his roots, Xiandao solemnly instructed. Xiandao also used the power of the Heaven and Earth Bank to quickly make a coffin out of wood, specifically redwood. After placing the old man's body into the coffin and handing the double-fish jade pendant to Xiandao said, "Go and come back soon. Go back and see your master off on his final journey. I have some questions for you when you return," Xiandao said to the Pisces jade pendant. No contract was signed for this transaction because Xiandao felt it was unnecessary. It would be incredibly foolish for the Pisces jade pendant to renege on the deal. "Thank you, new master." The Pisces jade pendant also knew that Xiandao was very kind and even asked her to see him off on his final journey. Xiandao waved his hand, sweeping them all away. The trading hall was once again empty except for Xiandao and Xiaoqi. "Are you interested in the core of the world from the previous era?" Xiaoqi nudged Xiandao with her elbow and asked softly. Xiandao thought about it carefully and said, "I'm a little tempted." It would be a lie to say I wasn't tempted. Even if the core of the world is broken or damaged, it is still the core of the world. After Xiandao obtained it, he studied it and found it helpful to his 9 heavens and 10 earths cultivation. However, Xiandao was reluctant to risk his life to steal something from the abyss. Once the core of the world is revealed, it will definitely attract the attention of everyone in the heavenly realm. The people of the 18th abyss will not dare to relax. Xiaoqi said softly, continuing to nudge Xiandao's arm gently. "Let's wait and see. I think getting the demon god pillar is the most important thing first." Xiandao looked at Xiaoqi and smiled slightly. Chapter 535 Who are the 4 great kings? Part 5. That year, the mountains were covered in blooming peach blossoms, so beautiful and flawless that it was impossible to look away. A young man waved goodbye to his childhood sweetheart, promising to return and marry her in 3 years. But those 3 years seemed to stretch on forever. 3 years later, the young man unwittingly fell into the abyss of the 18th level, trapped inside, unable to escape. 3 years. This time frame was extended indefinitely until now. More than 10,000 years have passed. The world changes. Xiandao arrived here carrying the Pisces jade pendant and the Titan giant carrying the mahogany coffin. The place the spirit woman referred to as her homeland. Her master's hometown. What came into view was desolation. The former sect, the former houses, the former peach blossoms covering the mountains, all of these had now become barren wilderness. No one has come here for a very, very long time. Wu Xian'er asked. Are you sure it's here? The female spirit floated out and said softly, my master said it was right here. This place has been abandoned for a long time. What should we do? Bury it on the spot? The Titan asked. No, there used to be a sect here. Even if it's abandoned, there are still some traces. Let's search carefully. Wu Xian'er shook her head and said, wanting to find the ruins of the sect for the deceased old man. Even if we're going to bury someone, we should bury them in the ruins. The Titan and Wu Xian'er began their search, following the mountain range and discovering many traces. This used to be a building, now only the foundation remains. Wu Xian'er sighed as she looked at a foundation overgrown with weeds. This used to be a large square, a place for teaching disciples, but now it's all ruins. Even the flat ground is uneven. Wu Xian'er found many such places and was certain that this was once the ruins of a sect. With the site confirmed, Wu Xian'er breathed a sigh of relief and planned to bury the old man. But when she turned her head, the Titan was gone. Looking into the distance, Wu Xian'er could still see the massive body of the Titan in a mountain hollow. What are you doing over there? This is the core of the ruins. Bury the old man here, Wu Xian'er shouted. The Titan didn't answer, but asked with a puzzled look, is this old man named Yi Chongfeng? Wu Xian'er blinked. She didn't know, she hadn't heard her master mention it. In fact, even Xiandao himself didn't know. Since the old man had already died, Xiandao did not ask his name. Yes, my master is named Yi Chongfeng, what's wrong? The spirit woman appeared excitedly. The tomb of Yi Chongfeng's wife, Yunwei. The Titan read aloud the inscription he had seen. Upon hearing this, Wu Xian'er's expression immediately changed. She rushed over and saw a small grave and a stone tablet that was mostly weathered. Some of the characters carved on the stone tablet are damaged, but the most central characters are still clearly visible. The tomb of Yi Chongfeng's wife, Yunwei. The spirit woman exclaimed in shock. She actually waited for her master her whole life. Wu Xian'er was also shocked. Looking around the tomb, she saw that there was even a peach tree. At this time that year, the peach blossoms were still in full bloom. The entire mountainside was covered in blossoms, but only this one peach tree was still in full bloom. That year, the mountains were covered in peach blossoms, and a young man and a young woman experienced their innocent love affair. At this moment, a peach tree stands, and the lost young man returns. If the master knew, he must be heartbroken. The woman he's always longed for hasn't married or left. She's been waiting here for her master's return, the spirit murmured. Why didn't you come back sooner? Your master has already reached the heavenly fate realm, Wu Xian'er complained. The master is tied up, he can't leave even if he wants to, the spirit woman sighed. Fate played a cruel trick on them. They never saw each other again, not even in their old age or on their deathbed. Perhaps their memories of each other are stuck at the age of 20. The young man was ambitious and spirited, while the young woman's skirt swayed, her pretty face blushing with shyness. The Titan silently dug a large hole at the edge of the grave, buried the old man there, and then went to cut through the mountain and select a hard stone to serve as the tombstone. The tomb of Yi Chongfeng and Yunwei, husband and wife. The Titan used his finger as a pen to write these words on the solid tombstone. Thump. He placed the stick directly in front of the two graves, then let out a long sigh and said, "Rest in peace." Wu Xian'er and the Titan bowed in respect, then remained silent for a moment before Wu Xian'er said, "We should go back." The spirit woman returned to the Pisces jade pendant. Her feelings were very complicated. She now understood why her master had cared about Miss Yunwei all his life, and why he had not indulged himself at all in the abyss, living a life like an ascetic monk. All of this is because Miss Yunwei is worthy. A single word, worth it, is worth more than 1,000. As Wu Xian'er and the Titan departed, a mountain breeze blew, and peach blossoms fell in abundance beside the double tomb. A single peach tree seemed to create the charm of a mountain full of peach blossoms. Wu Xian'er turned her head and vaguely saw a man and a woman standing under the peach tree, looking at each other with admiration. Blink again, and everything disappeared. Wu Xian'er stopped in her tracks. What's wrong? The Titan asked curiously. Wu Xian'er suddenly smiled charmingly. It's all right, the sand just got in my eyes, let's go. At the Heaven and Earth Bank, Xiandao looked at Wu Xian'er and the Titan giant after their return, told them to leave, and to leave the Pisces jade pendant behind. How should I address you? Xiandao asked calmly, looking at the Pisces jade pendant. Now their identities are different. Before, she was a guest. Now she is Xiandao's immortal artifact. Pisces, the spirit woman said softly, her red lips parting slightly. She has recovered from her disappointment and is now treating Xiandao with the right attitude. Now Xiandao is her new master. Tell me, how many experts are there in the 18th level of the abyss? Xiandao asked. Xiandao was quite concerned about this issue. Not many. If there were many experts, they would have launched a counterattack long ago. It's just that there are few experts. Although there are some top-tier ones, they are inferior to those in the real world in both quantity and quality, Pisces said, shaking his head. Is everyone involved in excavating the core of the world? Xiandao continued to ask. Yes, anyone with a bit of ability, as long as they are at the heavenly mandate level, will be approached and forced to agree. That's how my former master was taken away, Pisces nodded. So who's in charge now, and whose word is law? Xiandao asked, frowning. The four kings manage everything, Pisces said without hesitation. Xiandao raised an eyebrow. It was one of the four kings again. He already knew about King Zhou from Monk Tianxin. Who are the four kings? Xiandao asked. Chapter 536 The Woman in a Wedding Dress. Part 1. There are four kings in the 18th level of the abyss, but Xiandao only knows one of them, King Zhou. The other three had no idea. Pisces said, the four kings are King Zhou, King Lonling, King Giant, and King Yiksha. Among them, Lonling King and Giant King are in cahoots and have a good relationship, as are Zhou King and Yiksha King. They basically keep to themselves and live in peace. This time, they have joined forces to excavate the core of the world from the previous era, Pisces added. I understand. Xiandao remembered this, then waved his hand, and the scene of the third level of the 18-level abyss appeared in front of him. Led by the White-Bone Demon Lord, Monk Tianxin and the Demon Lord arrived at the third level. Let's see first. We'll see how powerful they are after we've met the four kings, Xiandao said calmly. On the third level, upon entering, Monk Tianxin carefully examined a hand-drawn treasure map. You've come here to search for treasure, the White-Bone Demon Lord asked in surprise. Yes. Monk Tianxin replied casually, continuing to determine the directions. Is there any treasure on this floor? The White-Bone Demon Lord was puzzled. He had never heard of it. Do you know about White Phosphorus Mountain? Monk Tianxin asked. I know, a very strange mountain range, the White-Bone Demon Lord nodded. Take us there, the demons said immediately. Okay. The White-Bone Demon Lord didn't want to delay. He also wanted to know if there was any treasure on the third level. White Phosphorus Mountain, a milky white mountain range, is a very strange mountain in the third layer of the abyss. After traversing most of the third level, Monk Tianxin finally saw the majestic White Phosphorus Mountain. Unlike the surrounding lush green and black mountains, this milky white mountain is often adorned with flames, which are also milky white spiritual flames, and are very strange and powerful. White Phosphorus Mountain is prone to spontaneous combustion. No living creature dares to live in this mountain because it's too easy to hurt themselves. Are you saying there's treasure inside? The White-Bone Demon Lord asked with a hint of doubt. Whether it is or not, we'll know once we go in, Monk Tianxin said calmly. Now that we've come all this way, we'll find out whether this ancient god's treasure is real or fake once we see it. That's true. The White-Bone Demon Lord nodded. Led by the Monk Tianxin, the three entered Balan Mountain. They are all at the heavenly fate realm. The weakest is the White-Bone Demon Lord, but he has also seized the heavenly fate realm 6 times. Although White Phosphorus Mountain may spontaneously combust at any time and the flames of the explosion will burn everything, it does not pose a great threat to these people. So the three of them quickly ventured deep into the White Phosphorus Mountain. If the White Phosphorus Mountain outside is an occasional spontaneous combustion, then the inside is a raging inferno mountain. The mountain inside burns automatically, and the temperature is so high that even an emperor-level expert would feel uncomfortable. Monk Tianxin felt all right. He followed the route on the treasure map and began searching inside White Phosphorus Mountain. Soon, he found the location of the treasure as recorded on the treasure map. A cave engulfed in flames is impossible to find without careful searching. Without a treasure map, even the monk Tianxin would not have noticed it. An ordinary person who comes here would never imagine that a treasure is hidden here. It was by chance that Jin Jiu's grandfather stumbled upon the treasure, but he also lost half his life because of it. He was poisoned by fire and lived for a while before dying in depression. Now the monk Tianxin arrives, passing through the flames. His white jade robe is impervious to fire and water, and he enters the cave. Inside the cave, there was no fire. As you walked deeper, you could see a coffin suspended in mid-air. The coffin, suspended in mid-air, was very heavy, made of bronze, and exuded a solemn aura. The Demon Lord and the White-Bone Demon Lord entered and were astonished by what they saw. Did an ancient god or demon bury himself here? The demon observed carefully. That's right, Monk Tianxin nodded. Open it and take a look. The demon was very interested. After carefully inspecting it and confirming that there was no danger, he took the coffin down and placed it on the ground. Thump. The cave trembled violently, a very heavy tremor. The demon slowly opened the coffin. This coffin was no ordinary object. It was made of exquisite materials, and its interior contained countless immortal restrictions. It was an extremely terrifying magical artifact. Even if we come away empty-handed, just this one coffin alone will make the trip worthwhile. Rumble. The coffin was pushed open, and what came into view was not a skeleton, but a beautiful woman with her eyes closed, her face a little pale, wearing a bright red wedding dress, and her hands resting on her lower abdomen. What's going on? The White-Bone Demon Lord exclaimed in surprise. Inside this coffin was buried a woman dressed in a wedding gown. Excuse me. Monk Tianxin put his hands together and immediately closed the coffin. There is only this one coffin in this cave. This should be given to the owner for disposal. I will keep it for now so as not to offend the deceased any further, said Monk Tianxin. Put it away. This so-called ancient treasure of gods and demons turns out to be a woman's coffin. It's strange. Who is this woman in a wedding dress? The demon asked in confusion. This is something our master wants to know. There are no clues in this cave, so let's go get the demon god pillar, Monk Tianxin said with a carefree smile. The demon nodded, and when the demon god pillar was mentioned, Zhong Ziki appeared and asked, On which level is that King Zhou? The White-Bone Demon Lord stared at the demon in astonishment, dumbfounded, and said, Didn't we agree not to go to King Zhou? Is it agreed? The demon asked Monk Tianxin in confusion. Anyway, I didn't say anything. Monk Tianxin shook his head. I didn't say either, the demon said calmly. Who did you make this agreement with? The demon asked the White-Bone Demon Lord. The White-Bone Demon Lord was speechless, glaring angrily at Monk Tianxin and the demon, and said fiercely, You can go if you want, I'm not going. Being beaten to death by you or by King Zhou is the same result. The demon said casually, Since you're not going, I'll kill you right now. Anyway, there are many people in the 18th level of the abyss, and you're not the only one who can take us there. Monk Tianxin said calmly, Kill them. There's no need to keep them alive. The White-Bone Demon Lord's soul fire leaped up, and after a moment of silence he said, I will take you there, but once we get there, you must let me go. If you're going to die, don't hold me back. Okay, Monk Tianxin readily agreed. The White-Bone Demon Lord was somewhat relieved and pointed at Monk Tianxin and the demon, saying, A gentleman's word is his bond. Don't worry, you won't be of much use to us. You just need to lead us to the front of King Zhou's palace. Once you see this pillar, you can leave, the demon said calmly. The white-bone demon lord was relieved and sighed. Let's go, I'll lead you to your deaths. The demon lord and the monk Tianxin ignored the white-bone demon lord's complaints and headed straight for the demon cave after leaving White Phosphorus Mountain. Continue down from the demon cave, all the way down, until the 18th floor. Chapter 537 The Empty Mansion. Part 2. The journey from the 3rd to the 18th level of the demon cave is a very long one. Fortunately, all of them were at the heavenly fate realm, and they arrived at the 18th abyss in less than a day. The 18th level of the abyss is no different from the rest of the place. On the contrary, the spiritual energy here is scarcer and more turbulent. The less spiritual energy there is, the greater the distance between oneself and the real world. The distance between them was so great that their excavation of the world's core from the previous era went undetected. Overall, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, which is why the experts in the abyss gather on the 18th floor. When Monk Tianxin and the demon arrived here, they immediately sensed that the aura in the 18th level of the abyss was much deeper. There are many experts gathered here. I can sense some terrifying presences, the demon said solemnly. As someone who had seized the destiny of heaven 9 times, his perception was naturally very strong. We'll proceed with extreme caution, and once we obtain the demon god pillar, we'll leave immediately, Monk Tianxin said solemnly. The soul fire of the white-bone demon lord trembled. It wanted to escape, for this 18-layered abyss was not a place for it. You're not allowed to leave. Take us to King Zhou's palace. Only when we get there can you leave. The demon grabbed the white-bone demon lord, lifting him up like a chick, and said coldly, "Go north." The white-bone demon lord pointed out the direction with a mixture of grief and indignation, as if on the verge of tears. The demon lord and the monk Tianxin immediately led the white-bone demon lord northward. Who are the other 4 kings besides King Zhou? Monk Tianxin asked on the road. The 4 kings are King Zhou, King Lonling, King Giant, and King Yiksha, the white-bone demon lord whispered. The king of Lonling and the giant king live in the south, while the king of Zhou and the Yiksha king live in the north. They govern their respective territories separately, without interfering with each other's affairs, the white-bone demon lord added. Monk Tianxin became serious. What if we fight with King Zhou? Will this Yiksha king get involved? This is a problem. We were already not confident enough in dealing with just King Zhou, let alone adding King Yiksha. Even a demon wouldn't be this arrogant. I reckon they'll get involved. The Yiksha king and the Zhou king are in cahoots, joining forces to fight against the Lonling king and the giant king, the white-bone demon lord said without hesitation, trying to scare away the monk Tianxin and the demon. So we shouldn't go. Our lives are more important. It's not worth losing our lives for a broken pillar, the white-bone demon lord earnestly advised. Well said, but we still have to go. The demon praised, but continued to move forward with unwavering determination. If you think what I said is right, then don't go. The white-bone demon lord wailed, unable to understand why he was so stubborn. But now it is powerless, like a chick in the hands of the demon, with no say whatsoever. And so, with despair in their eyes, these bone demon lords continued their march northward. There is no doubt that the 18th level of the abyss is very large, and its range is larger than that of the other levels. So, even at their current speed, it took them a whole day to see the Zhou King's palace. A palace atop a solitary mountain overlooks the surrounding area for hundreds of miles, and in front of the mountain stands a massive iron pillar. Demon Pillar. This demonic pillar stretched from the foot of the mountain to its summit, reaching the same height as the palace atop it. It was enormous. You see, that's the demon god pillar you've been longing for. Now, can you release me? The white-bone demon lord asked in a low voice. Upon arriving in the Zhou King's territory, it dared not speak loudly at all. Snap. The demon casually tossed it aside, and the bone demon lord was set down. It landed on the ground, causing some noise, which startled the white-bone demon lord, who feared a sudden attack. Why are you so afraid? Monk Tianxin asked, puzzled. This is King Zhou's territory, how can I not be afraid? the white-bone demon lord whispered. But there's no one in King Zhou's palace, Monk Tianxin asked, puzzled. What? The white-bone demon lord was taken aback. What did that mean? It quickly looked toward the palace, and it was indeed empty, without a single person in sight, and even its aura detection was completely silent. King Zhou is out, the white-bone demon lord asked in surprise, his mood immediately relaxing. It was good that King Zhou wasn't there. Take advantage of his absence and move the demon god pillar. The demon immediately took action. This was a good opportunity. He could take the demon god pillar without a direct confrontation with King Zhou, saving them a fight. The demon god pillar was planted in the ground, and moving it made a huge noise and rumble, but fortunately the demon was experienced and moved it with ease, quickly putting the demon god pillar into his magic treasure space. Is it really that easy? Monk Tianxin asked doubtfully. The white-bone demon lord had been talking about how powerful King Zhou was, and he and the demon lord were prepared to fight King Zhou. Now it seems so easy. The white-bone demon lord was dumbfounded. This was too easy. Walk over, pull out the demon god pillar, put it into the magic artifact space, and then come back. It was done in one go, flowing smoothly without any hindrance. Inside the heaven and earth bank, Xiandao saw this scene, a smirk playing on his lips, and said, King Zhou and the others must be digging into the core of that world. Pisces nodded and said, that's right. Not only is King Zhou absent, but King Yaksha is also not here, so they can easily take the demon god pillar. Xiandao immediately transmitted his voice to Monk Tianxin. King Zhou is away from the palace because he has summoned many people at the heavenly mandate realm to do a great thing. Once you have the demon god pillar, return immediately. Yes, master. Monk Tianxin now understood and relayed the news to the demon lord and the white-bone demon lord. So they went off to do something big. Well, we've gotten lucky this time. The demon lord smiled happily. He really liked obtaining the demon god pillar without fighting. The white-bone demon lord asked blankly, King Zhou summoned many cultivators at the heavenly fate realm for a major event. Why didn't he call me? Perhaps it's because you're too weak, Monk Tianxin said truthfully. The white-bone demon lord's soul flames instantly turned black. Let's go. Obtaining this demon god pillar is the best we can do right now. To get the other 3 demon god pillars, we would have to dismantle the 18 layers of the abyss, which is beyond our capabilities, the demon said to Monk Tianxin. Let's go. Monk Tianxin knew he couldn't linger and quickly left. The white-bone demon lord followed the demons back the way they came, spending a day to return to the demon cave, and then climbed up from there. There was no major danger throughout, which surprised the white-bone demon lord, who exclaimed, when did the 18th level abyss become so safe? It used to be extremely dangerous. Unless you were a peerless master, it was very difficult to descend to the 18th floor. But this time, they were too safe on their way, so safe that even the white-bone demon lord couldn't believe that this was still the abyss. He was unaware that all the experts in the 18th abyss had been summoned to handle a major matter. If he had known this, he would have realized that the 18th abyss was now quite safe. Chapter 538, Absorbing the Demon God Pillar. Part 3. Back on the first floor, the demon lord and the Monk Tianxin warned the white-bone demon lord. Don't tell anyone about this, or I'll spare your life this time, but not next time, the demon threatened. I know, I'm very tight-lipped. I've survived until now only because I'm so discreet, the white-bone demon lord assured him. I hope so. The demon turned and left. The white-bone demon lord watched the 2 people leave, breathed a sigh of relief, and said thankfully, I'll just continue being a skeleton. These are not things I can get involved in. Upon returning to the Sea of Bones, the bone demon lord disassembled his limbs and scattered them in different places. He then separated his skull and skeleton, completely disappearing without a trace. At the Heaven and Earth Bank, Xiandao watched as the demon lord and Monk Tianxin successfully brought out the demon god pillar, and he breathed a sigh of relief, feeling quite pleased. Bringing back the demon god pillar without much effort is the best possible outcome. Xiao Qi watched from the side and said, It's all thanks to the fact that they were all focused on excavating the core of the world and didn't take the demon god pillar seriously at all. Li Xiandao smiled and said, "This is good. With this demon god pillar brought back, we can start our operations in the azure sky. This demonic pillar is not used to evolve the 9 heavens and 10 earths, but for cultivation. Li Xiandao cultivates alone, and the energy he absorbs is on a completely different level than the energy absorbed by a world. It takes him a long time to absorb a single demon pillar. Therefore, Li Xiandao was no longer in a hurry for the remaining 3 demon god pillars. With a wave of his hand, Li Xiandao dispersed the scene before him, put away the Pisces jade pendant, and handed it to Xiaoqi. "This jade pendant is for you." Xiaoqi asked, "Why did you suddenly decide to give me a gift?" "I just wanted to give you a gift," Li Xiandao said with a smile, in a good mood. "I think you got a demon god pillar without lifting a finger. You're in a good mood, so you thought of giving me a gift." Xiaoqi rolled her eyes at Li Xiandao. Despite saying that, she still held the Pisces jade pendant in her hand with great delight, feeling very happy. Li Xiandao smiled but remained silent. When Monk Tianxin and the demon emerged from the 18th level of the abyss, the Heaven and Earth Bank was already waiting to welcome them. After the 5th mountain peak was unsealed, the Heaven and Earth Bank could move freely within a world, and even travel between worlds without any problem, as long as a certain amount of top-grade spiritual veins were paid. So as soon as they emerged from the abyss, they entered the Heaven and Earth money shop. "Master!" Monk Tianxin and the demon greeted Li Xiandao respectfully as he stood in the square. Li Xiandao nodded and asked, "Where is the demon god pillar?" "Get straight to the point, without any beating around the bush." The demon immediately took out the demon god pillars and handed them to Li Xian, saying, "There are 3 more demon god pillars embedded in the 18th level of the abyss. To retrieve them, we must dismantle the 18th level of the abyss, which we cannot do." The other 3 demon pillars were pierced through several layers, making them extremely difficult to pull out, unlike this one, which was relatively short. Li Xiandao said calmly, "It's all right. This one is enough. I'll figure out how to get the other 3 demon god pillars. From now on, you can focus on your cultivation and won't have to travel around looking for demon god pillars anymore." Upon hearing this, the demon felt a huge weight lifted from his heart and could finally relax. Even Zhong Ziki came out excitedly and said happily, "Thank you, Master." Li Xiandao laughed and said, "Why thank me? It's all the result of your own hard work. Go and rest with Monk Tianxin." Monk Tianxin and the demon immediately left the square. "I'm going to rest now." Li Xiandao vanished from his spot and reappeared in front of the Time Palace. Squeak! The doors to the Hall of Time slowly opened, and Li Xiandao stepped inside. "Burn 1,000 years of lifespan." Rumble! The doors of the Time Palace closed, and the flow of time became completely different from that of the outside world. Li Xiandao sat upright in the Hall of Time and took out this demon god pillar. Compared to the previous ones, it was much shorter. No wonder the other 3 pillars traversed 18 layers of abyss, while this one was placed in front of the palace gate. Although it is much shorter, it is no less powerful in essence and still possesses enormous energy. After all, it was a demon god pillar born from hell, and its quality was enough to allow Li Xiandao to improve rapidly. Li Xiandao placed the demon god pillar back in place, then took out the Samadhi true fire once more and began to burn the demon god pillar. "I used the previous 8 demon god pillars to construct the 9 heavens and 10 earths, and very little of them were used to improve my strength. Now that the 9 heavens and 10 earths are completed, I will use them all for cultivation this time," Li Xiandao murmured. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The Samadhi true fire, infused with Li Xiandao's true energy, erupted instantly, engulfing the demon god pillar in raging flames and beginning to melt it little by little. Time passed by, minute by minute. In the blink of an eye, a century has passed. The demon god pillar began to melt, and the resources slowly entered Li Xiandao's body. Every pore of Li Xiandao's body was absorbing waves of spiritual energy, his dantian was expanding infinitely, and his entire body was undergoing a transformation. His soul, immersed in the ocean of the great Tao, was undergoing a transformation. The energy of this demonic pillar is truly immense. Previously, when he gave it to the 9 heavens and 10 earths to absorb, it was completely absorbed in one go, and Xiandao was somewhat unimpressed. But now, he clearly realized that the energy in this demon god pillar was so terrifying that he couldn't absorb it all. Indeed, an individual cannot be compared to the world. Fortunately, I have constructed the 9 heavens and 10 earths, which will be my trump card from now on. At this moment, Xiandao clearly knew that the energy contained in each independent individual could not be compared with that of a world. The world is so vast, and it contains an immense amount of energy. Xiandao has 19 such worlds. Although these 19 worlds are in their initial stages of development, they have been born nonetheless, and their potential is limitless. As long as Xiandao nurtures them carefully, their growth will be no problem at all. Time passed day after day, year after year, and Xiandao continued to cultivate, comprehend, and absorb the demon god pillar in silence. 1,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. When the time came, Xiandao opened his eyes and immediately saw the great cataclysm of the universe, the birth of all things, the evolution of the world, and so on. Having grasped so many profound truths, Xiandao was unable to fully comprehend them for the time being. Fortunately, the next second, Xiandao blinked and returned to normal. He stood up and looked at the demon god pillar that was still more than half left in front of him, and couldn't help but find it funny. I really haven't absorbed as much as the world, not even half as much as the demon god pillar. But I'm already very powerful now. Xiandao shook his head and chuckled, leaving the demon god pillar in the time palace before walking out. It would be pointless for him to absorb it now. He seized the mandate of heaven 9 times and even reached the pinnacle of it. In some ways, Xiandao is currently at the pinnacle of his abilities. Xiandao will ascend to immortality if he fails his tribulation and embarks on the path of a wandering immortal, in which case he can continue to improve. But now Xiandao can say without any politeness, even a rogue immortal is no match for me. Chapter 539 The Debts in the Heavens. Part 4. As sunlight streamed down, Xiandao left the Hall of Time. This period of seclusion has greatly increased his strength. If he were to encounter a rogue immortal like the Dean of the Immortal Academy again, Xiandao could easily defeat him. After leaving the Time Hall, Xiandao went to see Xiaoqi. The first person I want to see after the breakthrough is Xiaoqi. I also want to share any joyful things with Xiaoqi. But Xiaoqi was frowning at a coffin, seemingly lost in thought. This coffin was brought back by the monk Tianxin. It was the so-called treasure of the ancient gods and demons. A woman lay in the coffin, a woman dressed in a wedding gown. Xiandao walked over and asked curiously, "What's wrong?" When Xiaoqi saw Xiandao coming over, he said, "You were in seclusion breaking through your cultivation just now, and monk Tianxin entrusted this to me. I will observe it carefully again." Xiandao looked at the bronze coffin with a serious expression. One corner of the coffin was opened, revealing half of the woman's face inside. She looked very peaceful, and her bright red wedding dress was particularly eye-catching. "What did you discover?" Xiandao asked. "This woman doesn't seem to be dead," Xiaoqi said seriously. "No breathing, no heartbeat, no soul fluctuations. Apart from her incorruptible body, she is no different from a dead person," Xiandao observed and said. "I know she looks dead, but I just feel like she's not dead." Xiaoqi shook her head helplessly, feeling that her words were not very convincing. Intuition should not be taken as evidence. Whether this woman is dead or not, she is now a member of my Heaven and Earth Bank. "Keep the coffin safe," Xiandao said after thinking for a moment. Xiaoqi nodded, then suddenly had a flash of inspiration and said, "I'll place her coffin in the core of the ancestral dragon spirit vein, so that she can be nourished by it day and night. I want to see if she really didn't die, and if she will wake up someday in the future." Xiandao said indifferently, "Do whatever you want. I'll help you carry the coffin over." Xiandao slowly closed the coffin, then lifted it and placed it inside the core of the ancestral dragon spirit vein. Xiao Qi then said with satisfaction, "Let's leave it for now. Now that you've broken through, shall we start making a big splash?" Li Xiandao nodded and said, "Of course. We've always entered Songtian on a small scale, never making a big fuss. Now it's time to take back those contracts from before." The contracts in the azure sky are the most numerous. Xiao Qi had already compiled them beforehand, totaling nearly 5,000, all of which were obtained before the host died. The vastness of the heavens is 10 times that of the heavens, yet the contracts are only 2 or 3 times larger. The competition is simply too fierce, and many hosts die halfway through. When a host perishes, the contract automatically ends. The hosts who are still alive are basically powerful figures in the heavens. Therefore, when Li Xiandao entered the azure heaven, he did not touch them, but instead went to find the demon god pillar. Having obtained the demon god pillar and improved himself to reach his peak, Li Xiandao then planned to settle the contract in a grand manner. Xiao Qi was overjoyed upon hearing this. The liquidation contract meant that the treasury under her control would receive a lot of treasures. Although she couldn't use them, managing an empty treasury felt different from managing a treasury full of treasures. "I'm going to get the contract. Some contracts require you, the owner, to go in person. No one else can go." Xiao Qi immediately turned around and skipped off to get the contract. Li Xiandao watched her retreating figure and smiled slightly. Before long, Xiao Qi came over with several contracts and handed them to Li Xiandao. The hosts of these contracts all come from the top powers in the heavenly realm. It's not even a first-rate power like the Chenkuan sect. Xiao Qi coughed and said. Li Xiandao opened a contract. By Chunjiang, the current chief disciple of the Chunyang Immortal sect, borrowed a Chunyang Immortal sword from the Heaven and Earth Bank, paying 10,000 caddies of Chunyang spiritual liquid. 10,000 years later, the Chunyang Immortal sword will be repaid, with a penalty of 10 times the amount of Chunyang spiritual liquid. What this person borrowed was the pure Yong Immortal sword, a celestial artifact, and its quality was certainly not bad. The price he paid was pure Yong spiritual liquid, which is a very valuable item. Li Xiandao had read the records in the Universal Library. Pure Yong was the ultimate spiritual energy. When it reached a certain level, it would give birth to pure Yong spiritual energy. The process of accumulating pure Yong spiritual energy into spiritual liquid was very, very long. Each drop of pure Yong spiritual liquid is equivalent to a top-grade spiritual vein that Li Xiandao currently possesses. In terms of quality, the value of pure Yong elixir is second only to immortal qi, so it is not without reason that the pure Yong immortal sect has become a top power. This contract, worth 1 million caddies of pure Yong spiritual liquid, is quite valuable. Moreover, the pure Yong immortal sect is a powerful force with numerous experts under its command, so sending anyone would be inappropriate. Only Li Xiandao, who has just broken through to a higher realm, would be suitable to go. Li Xiandao held the contract in his hand, weighed it in his hand, and said, "Let's start with this contract. I'll go and meet Bai Chunjiang, the former chief disciple of the Chunyang immortal sect." Xiaoqi put the other contracts aside and said, "Then go ahead, I support you. I'd also like to see the pure Yong spiritual liquid of the pure Yong immortal sect. Is this thing, which is said to be only slightly inferior to immortal energy, really that powerful?" Li Xiandao smiled calmly, took the contract in his hand, and then walked out of the Heaven and Earth Bank. Paying back debts is a matter of course. The contract clearly states that Li Xiandao will retrieve what belongs to the Heaven and Earth Bank in accordance with the contract. After leaving the Heaven and Earth Bank, Li Xiandao headed straight for the pure Yong immortal sect. In fact, the pure Yong immortal sect is really easy to find. As a top-tier power with countless experts under its command and something like pure Yong spiritual liquid, it's like a firefly in the dark, shining wherever it goes. Chunyang, a solitary peak, seems to pierce through the clouds and connect with the sky. Li Xiandao traversed the earth and crossed the void, arriving here, and the first thing he saw was this enormous mountain peak. The entire mountain peak is as straight as a sword, and around it, there are countless mountain veins that form a large immortal sect. Pure Yang. These two characters are carved on a mountain peak. The huge and bright characters represent the area in front, which is the territory of the Chunyang immortal sect. Flying is not allowed. If you want to enter, you must enter through the main gate. Coincidentally, today is the joyous day when Bai Chunjiang, the senior disciple of the Chunyang immortal sect, inherits the position of sect leader. Therefore, the entire Chunyang immortal sect was filled with joy, and everyone from top to bottom was in high spirits. When Xiandao landed and heard people talking about this, he was still slightly surprised. He went to the Holy Land alone to ask for a celestial artifact, while the other party was also celebrating a happy occasion. Xiandao is no longer the same person he once was, yet when he came to a top-tier power to demand the immortal sword, the power was also celebrating a happy occasion. Fate is truly wondrous. I hope you can cooperate well and not let this joyous occasion turn into a tragedy, Xiandao murmured. Chapter 540 Pure Yang Immortal Sword. Part 5. The Chunyang immortal sect is bustling with activity today. The old leader has been in charge of the Chunyang immortal sect for 30,000 years, and it's time for a new leader to take over. The new successor, Bai Chunjiang. This senior disciple, who was already famous in the heavenly realm, was examined for hundreds of years before finally becoming the new successor to the sect leader. Today is a joyous occasion for the family, so Xiandao thought for a moment and decided not to make a big fuss or rush forward arrogantly. Like any other guest, he presented his gift and then walked up step by step. Everyone in the Chunyang immortal sect was all smiles as they came to welcome their guests. Besides those they invited themselves, many others came uninvited, hoping to establish connections. The flow was endless. After putting down his gift, Xiandao stepped across the crowded throng and arrived at the inner mountain range of the Chunyang immortal sect. Take a deep breath, and you can feel that faint Taoist pure Yang energy in the air. Chunyang immortal sect is a Taoist sect, but it is famous for its swordsmanship, the most famous of which is Chunyang swordsmanship. Therefore, Bai Chunjiang borrowed the Chunyang immortal sword with the aim of mastering the Chunyang sword technique to perfection. Instead of immediately going to find Bai Chunjiang, Xiandao wandered around the Chunyang immortal sect. Everyone passed by Xiandao without noticing him, talking about their own things. Xiandao walked leisurely like this. Senior brother Chunjiang wasn't outstanding at first either, but unexpectedly he made a comeback and became the successor to the sect leader, a female disciple whispered. Who says otherwise? Among the disciples of that generation, senior brother Chunjiang wasn't even in the top 10 back then. He was completely unknown, another female disciple said. So how did you turn the tables? The first female disciple asked curiously. The pure Yang sword technique. Senior brother Chunjiang didn't practice any other techniques, focusing solely on the pure Yang sword technique. He remained unknown for 1,000 years, and finally, he killed a sea monster with a single sword strike overseas, becoming famous overnight, the female disciple said admiringly. That's amazing. This kind of story, where someone works hard in obscurity and then rises against all odds, is exactly my kind of story, the female disciple exclaimed excitedly. Xiandao walked past them with a faint smile on his face. As expected, Bai Chunjiang's rise to power coincided with the time he obtained the pure Yang immortal sword. The pure Yang immortal sword greatly enhanced his understanding of the pure Yang sword technique, enabling him to surpass others and continuously improve, reaching his current level. Your strength has improved, so why don't you fulfill the contract? Xiandao said with regret. He walked past the female disciple and went straight to a room filled with sword energy. Who is it? A cold shout rang out as soon as Xiandao stepped into the room. A man in a long dark robe was looking at it with a frown. The room was empty with no one there, but he could clearly sense the fluctuations of sword energy. Someone had arrived. Bai Chunjiang. Xiandao stepped into the room and revealed his figure, then said, Who are you? Bai Chunjiang looked at Xiandao with a very solemn expression. He did not call anyone, which clearly meant that Xiandao was coming for him. I am an old friend you don't recognize, Li Xiandao said calmly with a slight smile. How can you call someone an old friend if you don't know them? Bai Chunjiang frowned. You don't recognize me, but do you recognize this? Li Xiandao took out the contract. Bai Chunjiang's eyes changed, landing on the contract, his throat becoming dry. You're from Tiandi Bank? Yes, now I'm someone you don't recognize, right? Li Xiandao asked with a smirk. I breached the contract, didn't I? Bai Chunjiang said bitterly. You still know. Li Xiandao sneered. You know, yet you still breach the contract? The contract clearly states that the tenfold price is 100,000 caddies of pure Yong spiritual liquid and the pure Yong immortal sword. Hand them over to me, and you can still live and continue today's grand meeting. You can still be the new sect leader of the pure Yong immortal sect. Bai Chunjiang looked at Li Xiandao with struggle in his eyes. His cultivation was not weak. He had reached the heavenly mandate realm 9 times. Although he had not reached the venerable realm, it was still quite good. The key is his swordsmanship. When he unleashes the pure Yong sword technique, it is like a god or a demon, captivating people and possessing limitless potential. But all of this became a joke in front of Li Xiandao. To save face for Bai Chunjiang, Li Xiandao did not rush directly to the Holy Land as he had done in Dolly. But if Bai Chunjiang doesn't appreciate it, then Li Xiandao won't be polite. Bai Chunjiang stretched out his hand, and a celestial sword slowly appeared in front of him. Clang! The sword energy was overwhelming, pure and powerful, and came rushing towards us with immense force. The pure Yong immortal sword is right here. I'm handing it over to you. Bai Chunjiang's expression changed several times, but in the end, he swept his hand and tossed the pure Yong immortal sword over. Li Xiandao casually caught it and asked in surprise, You're giving up the pure Yong immortal sword so easily now, why didn't you give it up when the contract expired a few years ago? Bai Chunjiang said with a wry smile. At that time, I was competing with 3 candidates for the position of sect leader. The pure Yong immortal sword was my trump card. I could not hand it over, even if it meant breaching the contract and paying the price. I was willing to do it. Now that I am the sect leader, the pure Yong immortal sword is very powerful, but I don't want to completely offend the mysterious and unpredictable Heaven and Earth Bank because of this sword, so I am willing to pay the price for breach of contract. Bai Chunjiang said what was on his mind. Li Xiandao nodded, accepting the explanation, and said, Give me the remaining 100,000 jin of pure Yong spiritual liquid, and I'll leave immediately. You can continue your enthronement ceremony. Can this be resolved for a day? After today, I will compensate the Heaven and Earth Bank with 110,000 caddies of pure Yong spiritual liquid, Bai Chunjiang said in a deep voice. A gain of 10,000 jin in just one day? Li Xiandao said incredulously. As long as I get through today and become the new sect leader, I will control the pure Yong immortal sect's spiritual liquid pool. I will decide how much to take and how much to use. So I can give you 110,000 caddies of pure Yong spiritual liquid tomorrow, but not today, Bai Chunjiang said sincerely. Li Xiandao thought for a moment and agreed. All right, 110,000 caddies of pure Yong spiritual liquid by this time tomorrow. I hope you keep your word, otherwise you will know how terrifying the Heaven and Earth Bank is. After saying this, Li Xiandao's figure slowly faded until it disappeared. Bai Chunjiang watched the entire process, trying to find Li Xiandao's whereabouts, but he couldn't find him no matter what he did. He's far more capable than me. Luckily, I didn't act impulsively. Bai Chunjiang breathed a sigh of relief. The moment he saw Li Xiandao holding the contract, he really wanted to kill him. But in that instant, he clearly realized the gap between himself and Li Xiandao. If he dared to draw his sword, he would surely be the one to die. Bai Chunjiang was terrified by this feeling. He was sure to be the one to die. How terrifying. Fortunately, this person is easy to talk to. Any trouble that can be solved with spiritual liquid is not trouble at all. Bai Chunjiang breathed a sigh of relief. He felt no guilt whatsoever for spending the spiritual liquid of the pure Yong immortal sect. I've sacrificed so much to become the sect leader, So it's only right that I use some spiritual liquid to make up for it, isn't it?